You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Are you ready to learn the 3 secrets to launching a successful podcast? Hi, I'm Bill, a recent client of the Podcast Mogul. If you've been thinking about starting a podcast but aren't sure where to begin, he's got you covered. He is hosting a free webinar where he will share the 3 secrets that can help you launch, grow, and monetize your podcast without any fancy equipment or technical headaches. Click the link in the show notes to save your spot now and let him help get your podcast off the ground.
Welcome to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Join the podcast mogul Phil Better as he interviews successful entrepreneurs that make their living in the digital world. Now, let's join your host, Phil Better, and his special guest today on Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast.
Episode of Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Today, we are thrilled to host a visionary who turned a seemingly random idea into a pioneering invention that reshaped the kitchen appliance industry. Imagine dropping out of corporate world, diving into uncharted waters with no engineering background, and emerging as the creator of a product that launched a whole new category in the market. They generated a category. They created their own niche, which most entrepreneurs dream of doing. In 2016, our guest did just that, founding the world's first oil infuser that allows users to infuse oil with herbs, spices, fruits, introducing a new concept that is groundbreaking as the air fryer was in its time. Despite facing skepticism and overcoming numerous challenges, her unwavering determination and clear vision turned her idea into an 8-figure business that continues to innovate and lead. Her journey is not just about transforming kitchen technology, also about her personal quest across continents, with over 30 trips to China to ensure her vision came to fruition. Her story is a powerful testament to the fact that creativity and persistence can turn even the most unconventional idea into a revolutionary success story. So without further ado, please let me introduce the indomitable force behind Levo, Christina Bellman. I'm sorry, I messed up your name, Christy. I was going
better.
I was like, I'm going to say Christy, and then I'm like, Christian. No,
You can start it later.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
It's crazy that you had this wild idea and decided to change a whole industry and create an industry as well. What led to that spark? Like, what made you decide, hey, I want to be an entrepreneur and change the world?
That's a good question. I like to describe Levo as like the first spontaneous thing I had ever done in my life up to that point. Very
successful.
Thank you. When you're an adult, I definitely, like, from high school on, had a plan for everything and an answer, and was kind of a more like classic overachiever. But once I was graduating college and it was really settling in, like, the careers that I was embarking on, which were like investment banking, front office investment banking in New York City, very particular career. I started to feel some kind of itch that I didn't really know what to do with, but I sort of talked myself out of it. I had a few friends that jumped directly into startups, but I just needed to establish myself financially and feel independent and autonomous as an adult first. I just couldn't imagine taking that risk at that time, but I thought those people were awesome for doing it. I just wasn't quite ready. So yeah, then I ended up putting in about 5 years in corporate America, like very 9 to 5, worked for one of the largest tech companies in the world, and started moonlighting Levo. So I know a lot of people are going through that process themselves, where they have an idea and they're kind of doing it in moonlight hours or in their free time. So I did that for a couple of years, before finally working up the nerve. And it was like, I ultimately had to create a deadline for myself because it was a very, very hard transition. But the idea was sort of random. Like, in all honesty, it was sort of the first idea I had. And I just had so much like energy towards wanting to change my career and like thinking it was a cool idea and just wanting to act on my own idea instead of working for somebody else. Like, I just had a lot of that energy that I just threw a ton of adrenaline at it and made it happen. So it was not well researched or investigated or thought planned out well or anything like that. It was kind of like blunt force to get it done. So
You just
anyway.
put your head down and you just like a bull ran through a china shop trying to get it done.
Yes, yeah, basically. Yeah, I kind of just didn't. Now I've learned about, I mean, now I like, knock on wood because I feel so lucky that it went anywhere because there's all these things that major companies do to validate an opportunity, to make sure they've done enough research. Like, is this even an idea that has any potential, real customers that are ever going to buy it? Like, will it ever grow? Is this market just like tiny and you're going to set yourself up for failure? Like, I didn't do much at all to validate that. I just kind of made it. And I did, the last thing that helped convince me was in a couple of months before I quit my job, I started going to these meetup.com events in Denver, actually, where I had moved at the time, partially because it was a more friendly entrepreneurial environment, but I was still working for this company and I made fake business cards as if I owned the company already and went and tried it on and kind of had like an alter ego experience and talked to people and got a reaction on the product and a reaction to me in that role. And those experiences being positive ones were ultimately like, all right, I feel ready to do it.
How did the idea, because like oil infusers with fruits, herbs, and spices, like it's not something we think about. Like it's completely different. How did that idea come to you?
Yeah, again, pretty random. I had a predisposition to like DIY, um, making things at home because I've always suffered from migraines since I was in like middle school. So I've been like cleaning with vinegar for a long time. Or if there's a way to make something homemade to avoid certain types of chemicals and things like that, I would learn it, like a homemade skin scrub or things like that. So I was kind of predisposed to that. And then I was I just happened to be around someone when they were making an infusion, and I was like, this is a mess. It seems really clunky, but couldn't you just run these things to your coffee machine? Like, couldn't you just run herbs and then whatever you want to infuse them through something like a coffee machine and get a result? And then I realized, no, it gets clogged. If you put like honey or vegetable glycerin or a lot of the types of things that someone's going to infuse if they wanted to make a number of different things that aren't water, basically. And then I just kind of went like dog on bone on that problem. Like, how do you make a coffee machine that doesn't clog was the first thing. And then the second thing was, I started to take to Google, and I'll never forget like the way the Google searches like looked to me on the screen of my computer. At the time, I was a financial analyst, and I kind of knew there were these like tailwinds of healthy eating and ingredient control and high fructose corn syrup being wiped out of things, stuff like that. And then I started Googling like homemade infusions. And I just found so many people that were on the internet, tons of forums, tons of YouTube videos, tons of like Pinterest type content, no companies and no brands. So they were just doing it on their own, but no one was monetizing or commercializing this habit. But there were tons of people who have this behavior and these interests that I thought, wouldn't it be cool to have this kind of like community oriented brand that speaks to these people? So those are kind of the two aspects of the idea, like what the brand could do for that community of people, and then physically what a product that I could make that would address some of their problems.
So you when we first started, you said that you didn't do any market research or you didn't do anything like the big brand. I'm pretty sure when you started jumping in and seeing the problems, you figured out the market research. You figured out that there is a market, there is a demand for something like this, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people, you saw your friends struggle with the mess.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm pretty sure more than one person struggles with a mess. And I love how you're like, a coffee maker could probably solve this. That is very thinking outside the box of what a coffee maker should do. Um,
Yeah, thank you. Funny.
when you started doing prototypes,
hmm
what was that like? Because that must have been, because that's your money making these prototypes. What was the stress level like?
Great question. So I self-funded those moonlight experiences for about 4 years, and I ended up like 6 figures in pretty quickly. So definitely advise people to be very careful. It catches up with you very, very fast. And I did a bad job tracking, honestly, at the time. So yeah, I mean, it started for me with the coffee maker, kind of just like reverse engineering the coffee maker. Now I love this idea of like a tear down. Like you're curious about why a coffee maker clause, tear it apart, find out why. Watch it run without the back on it, stuff like that. So I ended up at the time I was living in the Lower East Side, New York City, and there were these restaurant supply stores like closer to Chinatown. So I would go to restaurant supply stores and I bought every appliance that was even remotely similar, like heated water dispensers or coffee dispensers, all kinds of heating devices, immersion blenders, like stuff like that. Anything with like heating, stirring, and dispensing, I bought it and started taking them apart. Fashioned, like a prototype with like a water dispenser that I took a can, like what was canned pineapples, and like took a can in it and just kind of poked holes in it and like imagined it was like this pod, and just kind of did stuff like that. And then after getting to something there that I thought was like sort of reminiscent, even though it looked ridiculous, I managed to get in touch with two students at a nearby university that were studying like industrial design and engineering. And they actually did some awesome work for me, better than work that I paid like more brand name agencies to do next. Actually, that led to more patentable material, more interesting ideas, and they made a prototype. The goal was, I'm going to give you $10,000. You're going to try and make me a prototype. The prototype, when I went to pick it up, I was so excited. I go to pick it up, and it looks like scary and ugly and weird. And I went to go run it, and I was just like, oh man, everything about this was not how I was envisioning it in my mind. But they put together this awesome, like 20-page long report about all the reasons why they did each thing, things that they tried that didn't work, all this stuff. And that ended up being one of the most valuable exercises that I ever did early on. So it is kind of more, to me, like prototyping is more about iterating. And the sooner you start iterating and the sooner you start doing it wrong, the closer you actually get to the right answer. So it's better, the earlier you do it wrong, the sooner you're going to get to the right answer. And also, every way that you've done it wrong is kind of a way that you want to force your competitors to have to go patent, in terms of like patent strategy, because once you find the right answer, you want to make it so that the only ways that are left open in your category to make it are the wrong ways that don't work as well. Basically, like that was kind of what I learned about that sort of strategy along the way. So it was complicated. It's a very hard and precarious process. Yeah.
But apparently it can create a whole new market. With you finally getting your monstrosity of a prototype, um, when did you start? When did the trips to China start? Because that's a huge
Yeah.
thing. That's a huge thing. Because you have a prototype, and now you have to go to the next step, which is like you got to bring this over to China and get them to find the right company that can fulfill your needs.
So in retrospect, I kind of burned through a lot of contacts. This is just like a small piece of reflection that someone might resonate with someone. But in retrospect, I kind of burned through a lot of my good like business school contacts by talking to people too early, because I was like a mess, and people, when they don't think you have it together, like a great contact, you might want to just wait until you're more prepared. But anyway, I just burned through like anyone I possibly knew who might be able to help me with this, and was just sort of exposing like, here I am with this like chaotic idea and this messy prototype and this thing. But I did eventually, just through talking to people, it was like my college, like sort of academic advisor that helps you make your schedule, his like fiance's old boss's friend, something crazy.
A
Ended up
super
being
long connecting line.
crazy long chain, but just from, again, like the adrenaline of just trying to get this done, finally found my way to this super nice guy who sourced a lot of things from China and just had done a life of like product type things, mostly off the shelf stuff like branded lighters and like actually sold perfume online and all these funny things that I never would have thought. And he was the first person I talked to who was willing to introduce me to someone who works in China. And it wasn't that I was like committed to China per se. It was just that every time I would talk to someone who had any example of anyone who's ever made a product, it was so concentrated in that area. And it seemed like, if you had your Uncle John that made some kind of product 20 years ago, they had boots on the ground over there and they had been there. And I was just kind of modeling after, like, what does it look like when people have done this before? Like, I had no idea. I was like in a finance background. So that guy introduced me to a broker, which I don't ultimately recommend for sourcing factories, who was the first person who just like let me get on a plane. Because at that time I mentioned like these more brand name agencies. I had burned a lot of money trying to work with middlemen type parties, like these design agencies that are like, you have an idea, call us, we'll develop it for you. Like you spend so much money going down that route, not working with engineers directly, not working with factories directly. So I was just determined to get I wanted to like be at the factory and have visibility, not have it be like a black box where they won't reveal the source or they won't explain exactly what they're doing, stuff like that. So this guy was the first person to give me that intro, and I was on like the first plane out. First time someone would let me go, I went. And I ended up just realizing that because I'm not an engineer and I can't do a lot myself, that the best thing I can do is sort of like project manage, ask tons of questions and like push things along as best I can and be like a runner. There's an errand that has to get, we have to go pick up this prototype from here and bring it to this guy over here. Like, it's faster if I do it. So I was like just willing to do kind of whatever. And I ended up going a ton and working my way through several different factories to like better and better and better factories just by being there. And yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Booting it down, understanding the process, seeing how it's working.
Mm-hmm.
I love how you were like, I will be the gopher if I need to be the gopher. I don't know anything about CAD or anything about that, but I know I can do other stuff that I can help with that aren't technical. And I love how you were like, I'm willing to be a grunt for my business. So far, the whole story has been you being a grunt pretty much for building it up.
Yeah.
When did you switch from being the grunt, in essence, doing all the real work, to being like, okay, I can start not outsourcing, but giving to maybe, a project manager, to the marketing team, to other people? When did you start, I guess, hiring for your team?
I hired a couple months after I quit my job. And there was about 6 months between me quitting my job and us shipping to customers for the first time, which is no one should ever expect to get a hardware product done that much. It was all the pre-work that I did for years before that made it that fast. That's extremely fast. About 3 months before we shipped to customers, I brought on my first 2 employees, one that was sort of a generalist and like just had been exposed to startups, and one that was like super specific in marketing, because I felt like marketing was the biggest gap for me. Like I had made a Squarespace website myself, and I had posted a few things to Levo's Instagram, but it looked really, really obvious that I like was coming from banking. Like, I'm so Square. I was not like cool. There was no cool vibe. There was nothing that like, it was not inspiring. It was
very corporate.
Very corporate. And I was not fun for people. So I knew that was obvious. I was looking at it. I'm like, this just doesn't feel right. I don't know that I'm capable of this. So brought on those 2 people. That was awesome. I'd say my experience in general, like delegation has been like, I mean, it's a struggle for like a lot of CEOs that I talk to, but it's been a huge struggle for me. I feel like at any given time in the business, I'm doing a different version of grunt work in whatever direction I want to go. Like, I'm always the tip of the sword. So I always have to do that. I've had some bad experiences delegating to the wrong person, looking away and having to come back to the grunt work too. So like, I feel like for me, at least, I'm still on that journey. I consider myself like really early in my career. So that's my honest answer there, is I don't have any kind of like magic moment where like I got to just kick back. And actually the times that I did in some area, I've ended up having to come back to it. Like, I think it all needs your touch when you're creating something, especially when you're creating something that's like totally new and is so connected to you and your idea. So yeah, I'd say for me, it's a battle of like, how do I keep the vision intact in every area, and how do I know what's going on without doing it myself? But I feel like you kind of do need to know what's going on. But I've definitely gotten a lot of help. Like I had, for example, with the production side of things, I had made it to my second factory and I was working on the second version of Levo when one of my attorneys introduced me to a mentor of mine who has become like a part of my family, and like got on a flight with me to China to help me. He had like 30 years of experience in China and was like a brilliant engineer. And then I got exposure of like, I had been doing it like so, like such a hack job at it myself for so long. And then I got to see like a pro and watch him and watch the way the factory reacted to him. And just, it was amazing to get like a real introduction to like, oh, this is how you really do it. So there were moments like that where people came into my life where I got to, instead of just seeing like how I hack my way at it or make it up, how like a really experienced person does it. And that's been super helpful.
I love that. That mentorship with people is always the most key, because they'll show you stuff that you're doing wrong and how to improve it and to make it more efficient and even smoother, and give you chances to miss those mistakes that they made that can cost you huge amounts of money. Now that you've been running Levo for a while, what is the next 10 years look like for you and Levo?
So for me, if you're not growing, you're dying. So I feel like until I meet someone else whose mind is exploding with ideas for Levo, that's my job, is to just come up with more and more ideas to feed it. What I've tried to build at Levo that's working so far is that the customers are telling us, like, we have such a tight community of customers that we can ask our Levo Love Club community, what do you want? And that's like an eternal roadmap of new SKUs and products and ideas. They have so many amazing ideas. So that's really the formula that I've built. But we'll see. I hope that that's what takes it forward. I feel like that has like so much soul to it and makes people even more connected to the product and the brand. So that's my ideal for the roadmap. But we do have some of my ideas that are sitting in patents right now that are ready to rip whenever we want, like new types of infusers and new types of accessories, more kits and things to make different use cases that we're seeing people use. Like at the end of the day, Levo is learning from its own audience as it grows and watching what they're doing and trying to make it easier. Like if someone starts making chapstick, we're like, should we be selling a chapstick kit and make it a lot easier with like funnels and things that make it not a mess? Like, should we test out making chapstick and should we figure out how to make it easier? That kind of mentality is like what I think the future of Levo is. And yeah, we have some ideas, but we're also like more and more quickly getting more ideas from customers. So that's that. And then for me personally, it's making more of these. So I have a couple other patents outside of Levo for products that I think people will love in a similar way. And I have a few more of my own ideas that I sort of need to get out of my system, if you will. Like I like to say, like, everybody's got to get their wiggles out. Like I have to see some things to life. But then I think my long game is actually helping other people with their ideas. Because I think that's an area, particularly like technical people, like engineers, who have these amazing ideas and could maybe use someone who's like crazy and wiggly like me to help them figure out how to get it like live and just get it out there. So I'd say that's my end game. I love making things and seeing them come to life. There's such a high to it, and it makes my day to this day. If I ever, like when I'm having a bad day, I log into the Levo Love Club and I talk to people and I see what they say and what they're into right now. And it makes me so happy. So
That's awesome. And it's truly a great thing, because you have a permanent support network for you, because they must, your Love Club, right? Like just the name of it, Love Club, just means like they're coming to you because they love your product. Having a group of people, having one person love your product is great. Now you have a community that loves your product, and you're changing their lives, and whenever you need your life lifted up, it's a fair exchange. I'm pretty sure the balance sheet is a bit more heavier in their favor, making more changing their lives. but you always can take that a little bit out. I'm curious with Levo. We've talked about your community, building the community. How how was it building that community? Because it's a different community because people have to pay for this to join your community in essence by buying your product or your kits. Did you find it a struggle starting that community, or did once you started doing some little advertising and that you started to see your community grow quite quickly?
Um, Definitely saw it grow pretty quickly and organically. It's been very organic. I have a lot of ideas about ways we could make it a better infrastructure. So right now, the main community is living in Facebook groups, which
Mm.
for me is not ideal because it's on another platform. It's not on a Levo owned platform. So like my dream is ultimately to have like a Levo owned platform that has like more features that make more sense for these people in the way that they like to communicate, gives people an alias who might not want to have their real name and their real whole profile associated with it. And I think that'll be really interesting. So that's kind of something we want to do with the community. The way it started was we just created the group. Actually, like an early marketer that I worked with was like, why don't we just try and create this group? Call it Levo Love Club, see what happens. So we literally created the group and let it sit there and just watched what happened. And truly, we, for a few years, did virtually nothing with it. We just let it, we let people join. It got up to a couple thousand people. It looked like they were talking. Then we started realizing, oh, we should probably moderate this a little bit because every once in a while somebody gets in there and says like crazy things to other people and it's not very nice or something like that.
Yeah.
And then like a basic level of moderation to that end, but really trying to foster like people's organic conversation and just let them do their thing. It's really just grown. Like we've never actually done any paid ads towards the community. It's a little over, that group is a little over 20,000 people, which is like the smallest list we have. You know, like our Instagram followers about 100,000. Got a lot of different like Reddit forums and things like that where people talk about Levo. We've got hundreds of thousands of people on like email and SMS on any given day. So like it's not our biggest place, but they are very committed. I like to talk about the Levo Love Club like it's a concept, like you're all in it and you just choose to communicate with us wherever you want. But I mean, it's cool because some people meet up in person and hang out. People like learn from each other. They're like struggling with something and they post something and like 20 people come in and help them. We've started supporting people who want to do a Levo get together. Like if you want to host a little craft party or like a workshop at your house or something, we'll provide some supplies for you. You know, if you want to go to a farmer's market and you've made your own like salve or something with Levo, we might support you. If you had some packaging you wanted to buy or like some signage or something like that, we're trying to really like give back to people that are really wanting to promote the product and like have found it really useful in those ways. And that's all coming out of this group and this community.
That is insane. The level of the reason I'm saying it's insane is because I haven't seen companies do something like this before. Like most companies are like, no, I don't want you to promote our product to other pieces. Like, don't make products from our product. But you're here is like, hey, you're going to a farmer market, you need some stuff here, we'll help you out. You're creating Tupperware, the old school Tupperware parties.
Oh yeah.
Levo will help you out. We'll send you some stuff. And I think that is incredible because it actually fosters a more community engagement and is different than the other businesses that are out there.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a hobbyist culture, you know, like DIY people, like it tends to be a hobby. A lot of these are tied to people's passion projects and their lifestyle. And ultimately, the more they use the machine and the more they recommend it to other people like them, the better we do too. So yeah, we definitely want to support it. We don't see it as competitive if somebody's like, yeah, making products with it or anything like that. It's all indirectly.
You're investing.
Yeah. And you want to be something that we do not want people to buy this, use it once and never use it again and let it collect dust. We want them to like continue to see through what other people are doing. Oh, I could do that too. And, you know, if they haven't touched their Levo in a few weeks, maybe they'll be like, you know what, actually, that guy's turmeric ice cream looks pretty cool. I want to try that. You know, or just get more into it. So it helps in that way too, like driving up usage.
Of course it does. And it just makes it's an investment in the brand 100% in different ways. Instead of doing regular advertising, you're investing in your community, who are the best salesmen or salespeople in the world.
Definitely.
What is it like managing an 8-figure business at your age? Because it's not a lot. I'm guessing you're a millennial-ish age range,
Yeah,
I'm guessing.
I am. Yeah. I'm
Um,
33.
okay, yeah. So you're same age range as me. We were told, us millennials, that we're lazy, that we're not focused, and all of a sudden here you are. You're breaking that mold by running an 8-figure business, and you've done most of the hard work yourself. What is it like? Like, how do you feel knowing that you have an 8-figure business?
I don't think about it often, and for saying it, I'm trying to feel it because I think, I feel chronically unaccomplished and like I'm on the hamster wheel for sure of achieving. So I appreciate you saying it. I need to spend more time there and celebrate it more. I think when I spend time in the Levo Love Club, those are my little moments of celebrating it and feeling um, the feeling of success of having people who like own this and love this and remembering and being so grateful that 10 years ago when I started moonlighting this, people were looking at me like I had 10 heads and I remember having thoughts like, oh, if I just saw it on one shelf, there was just one, like, oh, then it'll all be easy from there. And that's not true. But I used to think that. So now I can look at that and I can think that that's pretty funny. Um, so yeah, I would say the highs are really high and the lows are really low. It's been, it challenges like owning a business like this, any business really, unless there's definitely some luck. Like you could do things at the right time, right place, and you can get pretty lucky. Or, in my case, we've had like several near-death experiences. We've had to change. I've had to personally change a lot. I've had to, part ways with people, which was super hard for me. Like the amount of personal development that I've had to do to be there for Levo. And at times when Levo was really hard for me, like fall back in love with it and take care of it. Like it really is like having a child. It is something you have to care for and take care of. Otherwise it will get hurt. And that's scary. So yeah, I would say it's a lot. These days, like the support, like once we got up to like a couple 100,000 households of people who owned Levos, I did start to feel like like you were saying before, the community of customers makes me feel more supported than anything. That really is so true because even, for example, if someone's complaining on Reddit, I've seen time and time again, one person will complain and 20 people will respond in our defense. So like that's awesome. And that helps me sleep at night. And I think that, it just makes you want to keep giving back to that momentum. So yeah, I don't know. It feels like a lot of things. I don't know.
I can only
Every time
imagine.
you think you get used to one phase, it changes. Every 6 months to a year, like it's something new. So you never really get used to it.
Which is, it's great because you're constantly evolving, constantly pushing yourself, which brings me to my other question about investing in yourself, because this is the premise of the show, is investing in yourself. With having to, over the last 10 years pretty much, and probably the last few years, you've had to really invest in yourself, to your skills and all that. How do you go about balancing it all, managing this huge company, and then also knowing you have to invest in yourself to get to the next level?
Yeah, I think your personal well-being is super important and it's easy to get lost. Like there are times, even recently for me, where I'm like, you have to work a certain number of hours. Sometimes you have to make certain sacrifices, but the quicker you get back to your healthy routines and things like that, the better you are mentally. So I try not to get too strung out over long periods of time and try to bring myself back to some positive, good habits and things. If I've just been like on the road, crazy hours, kind of nonstop, not taking great care of myself. So taking care of yourself is one thing. And then investing in yourself, I mean, I think I'm under indexing on this now. Maybe after this call, I'll take action on that. But I would say like great coaching with like a really good coach, a really good experienced coach, not just anybody. Great coaching, CEO groups. Like my life changed when I met other entrepreneurs, which was about 2 years into Levo. So like when I started Levo, me and everybody around me was totally corporate. Like I didn't know many entrepreneurs at all. And then in 2018, so 2 years into Levo, I joined Entrepreneurs Organization in Denver and joined like an 8-person forum of other people having similar experiences and owning businesses. And it's kind of crosses like all areas of your life. And that was just like so profound for me from head to toe. That was crazy. I was like, why didn't I do this earlier? Be around other people doing the same things. Like I have a tendency to sort of go in my own hole and go at it alone, which is not what I recommend. So I constantly have to get better at receiving support and being around other similar people and sharing my vulnerable experiences or problems or challenges and things like that. So I've learned that through these CEO groups. And now I'm a member of YPO, which is very similar. And you can get those exposures. So I think that's how I invest in myself, or like those types of groups and coaching, and then trying not to drift too far from like my exercise routines and stuff like that for too long.
I love it. And that's a great way of investing in yourself, getting around people who are higher in expertise than you are, who have different ideas and that. And it gives you that 300,000 feet view of your business in that. Excuse me. We are coming to the end, which I hate because I'm having a great time. I've been part of the Levo Love Club as an accessory, but I'm wondering, I have your 10-year-old self here. She's a Spitfire, let's say, running around, trying to change my room. I don't know how I feel about that, but what is one piece of advice you would love to give back to your 10-year-old self?
Just embrace everything weird about yourself for as long as you possibly can, because all those qualities become the most endearing adult qualities if you can like hold on to them. So yeah, I would have just said all the weird. I was doing lots of silly stunts. Like my friend and I we used to do just really silly things, and we used to film funny videos and things like that. Like if I could have kept that going till I was like 16, 17 and never got too serious, I think that would have been even better. So I would have said just more of that. The weirder, the better.
I love that. I love that piece of advice. It's very unique. And for someone who just created their own industry, I think it's very wise. Chrissy, I'm going to jump off stage here. I want you to let my audience know where they can find you, how they can follow you, how they can get part of the Love Club, the Levo Love Club. So the floor is yours.
No, thank you. Thank you all for listening. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm Chrissy Ford on LinkedIn. I recently changed my name. Levo's website is LEVOOIL, levooil.com. I'm also working on something new at storeitfresh.com, which is STORITFRESH.com. The Levo Love Club is on Facebook. You're more than welcome to check it out if you're curious about community-oriented brands, and say hi to the Levo customers.
I love it, Chrissy. Thank you so much for coming on the show and talking about your journey with Levo and creating the Love Club so that other people can kind of love your amazing product. I can't thank you enough.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a wonderful day.
Awesome. To my audience, check out the show notes down below to connect with Chrissy and find out more about Levo and all that great stuff. And remember to always, always invest in yourself.
Thanks for tuning in. Now it's time to take the next step. When you're ready to dive deeper into how to launch, grow, and monetize your podcast, Phil's got something special for you. Join him for a free webinar where he'll reveal the 3 secrets that have helped countless entrepreneurs succeed in podcasting. Click the link in the show notes to save your spot, and let's turn your podcasting dreams into reality.